It's really hard to write a good sequel, especially when the first story is the greatest story ever told. And as we approach Pentecost next week, we're nearing that point where Easter is far enough in our past that we can't keep holding onto it as if we're still in the Easter season, and we have to face the rest of time dragging out in front of us. That's where the disciples were in the reading from Acts today at the Ascension. They have seen and witnessed the miraculous resurrection, and they're wondering what comes next. The church year gives us a good way of experiencing this in our own bodies. We front load all of our celebrations into the very end of December and the start of the new year, and then stretching out from here until we reach Advent again is this long period that can seem fallow. What are we to do with this time? What comes next? How do we follow up that intense emotion of the journey of Good Friday and Easter Sunday? It's the same thing the disciples are wondering when they say to Jesus at his farewell, "Lord, is this the time you will restore the kingdom to Israel?" They've got memories of that Davidic kingdom, of when David, a king that was beloved of the nation, joined together the northern and the southern kingdoms that had for so long been separated, a golden era. It's funny, when we look back on that time, reading the scriptures, we recognise David as a man who had more than his fair share of flaws, and we recognise that time as not necessarily a wonderful time to live through. But it has become, by the first century, enshrined as a golden age for the nation. I guess it's not dissimilar to the way that when the British public is polled about who the greatest Brit is, Churchill's name always comes out on top. It doesn't take that much reading to realise that he wasn't always a great bloke, and nor does it take that much reading or imagination to think that the time that he lived through, namely the war, wasn't that swell a time either. But earthly power and fortune is what they're hoping for here. They're hoping for a taste of heaven on earth. Have we won? They wonder. Is this the end? Do we get our reward now? We who have given up so much, our families, our livelihoods, to follow Jesus Christ. Do we now get to be the victors? Is everything over? Is it all coming to an end? Or at least, will the world be set right? Will Israel once again be a name that causes awe and maybe even fear from the surrounding nations? Are we going to be more than simply a backwater of the Roman Empire, a nation under occupation that is allowed to go about its little life as long as it doesn't cause too much fuss, but is ultimately, in the eyes of the wider world, inconsequential? Will this maybe be an end of the Romans? Could we be the new Romans? Is it our turn to experience running the empire? Is it our turn to govern? Or more charitably, we might read into what the disciples are asking by thinking that they are just expressing their desire for liberation, for a period of freedom from oppression. And Jesus' answer to them is, don't worry yourself about that. It's very unsatisfactory. They want to know what's coming next. And he says, your Father in heaven, he's got all the timings worked out. You don't worry yourself. Don't bother. What he does offer them positively is he tells them that they will receive the Spirit and power to witness to what they have seen and what they have heard, what they have touched and tasted, all that they have known of Jesus over these last 3 years of his ministry. That's their job, and that, he says to them, is enough for you to be getting on with. And with that, Jesus ascends and leaves them in this final mighty act of power. The Romans might not be overthrown, but there's little doubt at that point who has the greater power. The Romans, they killed him. He rose back again to life. And now he ascends to heaven. And despite all of their ingenuity, their technology, their vast resources, one thing that the Romans never did for us was teach us how to fly. Most retellings of the story stop at the resurrection, and a few retellings of Jesus' story are brave enough to continue on and to tell the ascension too, but nothing beyond that. Things have come to what looks like their end. Jesus leaves us. To carry on from there would be to try and write that sequel that could never live up to the success of the first story. But it doesn't stop there in the scriptures. And in fact, the story is driven forward at that point at a quite unreasonable pace. We read, while he was going, and they were gazing up towards heaven, suddenly 2 men in white robes stood by them. They said, "Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking up towards heaven?" While he was going up, these people are witnessing something that they have never seen before in their lives, something that no one has ever seen before in their lives, an astounding miracle. They are watching their best friend and beloved master disappearing before their eyes, and the angels have the audacity to say to them, while he's going up, why are you looking upwards? Why are you looking at the heavens? Give them a moment, surely, to say goodbye, a moment to revel in this wonder. But no, it is time for action. Step to it. Jesus has not yet fully disappeared, but still there is no time to lose. Ultimately, the answer to their question, "Lord, is this a time when you will restore the kingdom to Israel?" is given to them not by Jesus, but by the angels. "Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking up towards heaven?" They've already been the witnesses of their own callings. They've seen Jesus conducting, teaching, ministering by miracles and exorcisms and healings. They have witnessed his execution and his resurrection, and now they are witnesses of his glorious ascension, his being lifted beyond the clouds. With all that they've seen, the time for looking is over, and the time for speaking and testifying has arrived. And we, like them, have been living as witnesses ever since. And it has now been close on 2,000 years. But there is still no time to lose. In this respect, Churchill did reflect something of the divine. You know, he was fond of stamping on missives in red ink his favourite phrase, "Action this day." And so too is our call, to be Christ's witnesses to the world and to waste no time in doing so. Amen.